Okay, recording in progress. So, uh, um, good evening, everyone. Radio Club has organized this session with Professor Shri Naresh Jotwani, who is a professor in our college as well as in PDPU. And we, in this session, will be
Hello, you made a mistake, not PDPU.
I'm really sorry.
I'm not. Did you say I was a professor in PDPU?
I did, sir. I'm really sorry. I was of the impression.
No, let me make that clear so that there is no misunderstanding.
Absolutely, sir.
I worked in PDPU many years ago.
Okay.
Currently, I am a visiting professor at DIICT. Earlier, I was full-time professor. Now I am visiting professor. Plus, I am similarly visiting professor at another local university called Ganpat University, which is different from PDPU. In both places, it's a visiting appointment. Okay?
Okay. I'm really sorry, sir.
Thanks a lot, and we apologize for the mistake.
Please continue.
Yes, so I guess Naresh sir gave his introduction. So in this session, we'll be looking into the budget that was presented by our Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman ji on the 1st of February 2022. And we have this lineup of questions we'll be completing first. And after that, of course, we can always take questions from you in here on Zoom and on our YouTube stream. And we'll be asking those questions too. So we request the audience to be active in the chat, ask questions. All the questions will be answered. So that's it. With the introduction, I guess Ishan, we can start with the questions.
Sure. Thanks a lot, VL. So again, I would like to thank sir for taking out valuable time and having this amazing session with us. So sir, I'd like to start with a very inquisitive question. It is something that it's very different from traditional budgets. So I found it very hard to comprehend why umbrellas specifically found a mention in the budget. Like, was there a specific reason why umbrellas were specially mentioned in the budget?
Okay. My reaction or response to that is key in this GST setup, always there is some fine tinkering of percentages, So probably it made sense. They would have changed the GST tax rates in many items, increase, decrease, all that too. But why one thing gets prominence and another 9 things don't? Partly because it has, some overtones as to it gives some kind of an impression of what the government is thinking of the common man and all that. So it has some purpose. The economic impact may not be so much, but the intention to convey your sense of concern for the common man or so on, maybe more the role there. I don't think it has so much financial impact, but the GST rates are being constantly fine-tuned, So that is my reaction to that. Some things, ultimately it's a job of presentation, what to highlight and what not to bring out. Okay, you follow? So
yes, I totally.
Part of it. It's part of that.
Thanks a lot. I got my answer.
For every one thing that you bring out. Oh, I'll tell you a joke. How much time do we have?
We have time.
So we have time on our hand.
So I'll tell you a joke, which I heard a long time ago when I was your age. See, in Germany, there was East Germany and West Germany in those days. So in the train, one lady and one gentleman were crossing back from east to west. So at the border, some inspector came. He said, I smell coffee here. You are smuggling coffee out of East Germany. So before that, the lady and the gentleman were talking, they were both trusted each other. So they shared some secrets that how necessary it is to bring coffee, this, that, because there were restrictions, so to save some money. So each had confided in the other. So when the inspector came, the gentleman rose. Oh, yes, this lady is carrying 1 kilogram coffee. Here, there it is. You take it. So inspector was happy. He said, you are a loyal person, you are telling the truth. So he took the 1 kg away. So the lady was outraged after the inspector. How can you do this? We were friends. We were sharing each other's secrets. He said, keep quiet. Then after the train moved on into the other side, after the border, because the smell of the coffee is same, whether it's 1 kg or 50 kg. He, from his own suitcase, he showed he had 50 kg. He gave 1 kg to the lady and said, sit quiet. Okay.
True.
So the purpose of the 1 kg was to satisfy the inspector and distract him from looking from the other 50 kg. You know?
It's basically a facade that's being put on to hide something other, like to focus on a good intention, basically.
You cannot, please remember one thing, no matter what you learn in your management classes or coaching classes or wherever you go, you cannot separate economics from politics. It's not possible. Okay?
So there's no ideal world, basically. There's no ideal world that we assume in economics. There's no ideal world that we assume in economics. Like, we often make these assumptions that ideally this should happen, but there's nothing such as ideal.
That ideal, no. That is an imaginary world. It has never existed. So even to imagine a non-real thing cannot be beneficial. Deal with the reality as it is. Why do you want to? It's like a virtual reality. The world of economists is a bit virtual, like what you do in computers, you know. Mm-hmm. But the true economics applies to the real world, and it cannot be separated from politics.
Politics and social life, absolutely, it can never be separated. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
So next, we'd like to ask. We've seen last year the farmer protests, and there was a lot of media attention to the farmers. This year we've seen the coming of in the budget, the Kisan drones. And there was this organic farming thing that was announced, a belt around Ganga where chemical-less farming has been announced. And there's this allocation for MSP for wheat and paddy that was mentioned in the budget too. So in general, like these are just some of the examples, but in general, how do you find the budget for a normal farm?
No, in general, I don't think this government has, satisfied the farmers' demands. And there is, I don't think, at least the farmers who are agitating. See, India is a hugely diverse country.
Absolutely.
Okay. So there are so many states and so many agroclimatic regions and all that. But at least the farmers who are protesting, their demands by and large are pending, except for withdrawing the 3 laws which were introduced without consulting them anyway. See, this is a tricky question. If I tell you something is good for you, therefore shut up and accept it, you are less likely to accept it. But if I convince you, starting from ground zero, from where you are, that look, A, B, C, D, at any step, stop me and ask if there is a doubt, and I convince you this is good for you, you may accept the same. So it's not only what you are saying, but how you are behaving in a democracy. That's a very big factor. Even in institute, I am a teacher, you are a student. But if I tell you, shut up and do this because it's good for you, even perhaps your parents tell you, you don't like it. But if someone takes the trouble to convince you and settle all your doubts, okay, then it's a different matter. It's human nature. So I think somewhere all that went wrong. Even if it was good for the farmers,
they didn't feel it was good for them.
They thought it's one more scam, like so many have been there. Mm-hmm. And in this free market economy, I tell you, you know the working of free market economy. It's a intensely competitive world. You know?
Absolutely.
But in that kind of economy, the farmers being at the one end of the food chain always get a less good deal, you know, because the product is perishable and so on. So when they produce food in huge quantities, more than what the country needs, they end up getting lower price for it, because that is how the supply demand works.
Absolutely.
In good faith, they produce huge quantities. but the supply demand crashes the price. So that whole issue, I think, requires more careful thought, which was this time, at least to my way of understanding, it was not there. So I don't think the issues are resolved. They have to be seen to be doing something. These drones and all that. But no farmer has ever complained that there are insufficient number of drones. Okay, so I don't see. It's good to switch to organic farming, but that itself is a complex issue, you know.
Absolutely.
So genetic belt and all that. I hope it's a good start. But the farmers' issues are not yet resolved, and probably the impact of that will be seen in the Punjab and UP elections, which are coming up. Okay. So anyway, we'll see. I'm just telling you, we'll wait and see.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. That answer was really very satisfying about the farmers. So we'll move from the farmers to us. Like the budget has been very promising for us, like the youth, and especially the youth who are in the tech industry. In DICT, everyone's tech oriented person. We are all in the IT almost, BTech at least. So there's been announcements about this digital university, and there's been one very interesting announcement, very new, which is animation, visual effects, gaming, and comics. They'll be making a task force, and they said that this will help in bettering the employment in these fields like animation, gaming, and all these things. So apart from this, and in general, like how has the budget been for people like us, like normal youth, people our age? We'll be talking about sports too, although, and in general, the tech industry, and of course, the semiconductor industry in general.
See, even before this budget, that government had announced certain major schemes like Atmanirbhar and production-linked incentive and all that.
Yes.
Because they found that we had this trouble with China border, so we should not be too dependent on imports from China.
Okay.
So some schemes were already in place, which are good for the country. Semiconductors, solar panels, and so many things. Okay. The other day I was talking to a electrical repairman who's quite a smart guy in a small town. This is not like your Ahmedabad. I live near a small town. So he was showing a drill to a potential customer for breaking RCC. If you want to make a big hole in the RCC wall, you need a big drill.
Mm-hmm.
So he was showing 8,600 rupees, this, that, made in China. So I just joked to him, when will this become available, made in India?
Made in India.
So this is a guy in a small village speaking in Gujarati. He says, yes, Sarkar has done something. In 2-3 years, we may see also. So he's telling me what the ground level people are observing. So those drills and other things nowadays, just, 9 out of 10 times what you're buying comes from China, these things. But we hope it changes. Now, as far as digital university is concerned, see, my understanding of university is different. University has origin same as universe. That means study of anything. University.
Absolutely.
You should have minds working within the university on any aspect that they want to work on. Maybe physics, maybe chemistry, maybe social sciences, whatever. So whenever you put these qualifiers in front of the university, I personally think you can call it institute or something, but institute is different. See, ours is an institute deemed to be university or something like that. But if something is a university, it should have all faculties, So it addresses all the different issues facing. Okay, like old-fashioned universities, like Bombay University, Pune University, Delhi University, like that. Okay, Gujarat University. Now trend is otherwise. So in that sense, every university today has to use digital means totally, whether it's social sciences or whatever. Knowledge is digitized. Interactions are digitized.
Absolutely.
So I personally, okay, you can have a world-class institute for animation and comics and what you said. It should be world class. Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Okay, we are calling it Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So anyway, so California Institute of Technology, that is Caltech. So anyway, they are calling it digital university, but we are living digital life anyway. What is this slogan of Geo? Digital life.
Geo
Hello.
digital. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So our life, all communication and even creation, writing, reading, graphics, everything is becoming digitized.
Digital.
So
And
all
with the
universities will be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
With the pandemic, that has been, it has gotten a push with all the communication and everything going digital.
So all these, like you have children's university, sports university, forensics university, digital university. I think these should all be institutes within one university or something. Or institutes deemed to be equivalent to university or something. Okay. But that the more and more we are using, digital technology. So okay, it is coming into the life anyway. Right now we are using Zoom. This is a digital means of communication. Okay, not a problem. So that trend is there. Whether you call it digital university or some other, it should be world class. If you're doing your graphics or animation or comics or whatever, it should be so good that you get work from all over the world. Okay? Work so that people will get jobs. Graphic animation and all that requires a lot of work. So that can be outsourced if we are good in it. Okay, so let us hope for the best.
We can hope for this.
But that's not for BTechs. The BTechs will do some other kind of work. You see, people working on creating animations will probably not have degrees like you are working for.
Absolutely.
Maybe they will have diploma or something.
They just start working out of interest after they turn 18. Maybe.
Interest, then the interest will take them far. But if you get a job developing software or creating animations, I think you will choose the first one.
Absolutely.
You may get bored with the second one.
It may happen. You need special skills for animation and those kind of things, which everyone might not.
Designing games may be fun. Designing games, creative, innovative games. Design, game design may be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
You follow, no? So within the words you said, there is a lot of scope.
So, sir, according to you, what are the political, financial, or international impacts of this budget? Like, how will this budget influence the political situation in our country or the international stand that India has?
See, please understand one thing. In any economy, not only in India, there is always a divide between those who think that they have all the levers of running the economy in their hands and those who are working and they feel somewhat on the other side of the divide. Now, that is unfortunate, but it happens to be true. Okay? In some countries, the division is sharp. In some countries, not so sharp. But everywhere it's there. Like I had a friend who was, this was when I was not in India. I was in Singapore. So I had a colleague who came back from Sweden after doing his master's or something. So he was saying that during lunch break, we all used to sit around, including the managing director and me and the sweeping lady and everybody, together sit in a circle and have our paper bag lunch or something. And after lunch, everybody goes back to work. So all means there is no bar of, upper or lower. Everybody sits around, enjoys lunch, then goes back to work. Now, there are many economies, including India and maybe even the US, where this may not happen. Okay, you have this class structure. Okay, so by and large, this class structure, sometimes known as haves and have-nots and all that. By and large, it exists in almost every economy. Okay, it must be there in Sweden also. I just heard this from my friend, but it must be there. So now, when some government is making economic plans, they should think of all classes. But the differences between these two are so huge that how do you prioritize? Which one is more important, etc., etc. How do you find a middle path? One set of strategies will make you popular with the quote unquote business community, investing and banking and all that. Another set of policies will make the disadvantaged people or hardworking Kisan, Jawan, Majdoor, they will be better off. It seems to me the case today that finding the middle path is extremely hard. So in politics, you get two divisions. One group is called quote unquote socialists, and one group is called quote unquote capitalists. Okay, right? In America, the divisions are becoming sharp. So then that comes to the question of tax structure and all that. Okay, now in order that your budget should find widespread popularity in India, you have to somehow satisfy both. Because in India, the disadvantaged, poorer class is huge. Okay. But in order to satisfy what you said, international image and credit worthiness and, getting FDI and all that, you have to make your budget friendly to the corporate sector. If you do this group may be dissatisfied and vice versa. Now, even the capitalist claims that once you have very healthy growth, everybody will benefit. That is the theory. But whether actually that is observed in practice is another matter. The theory goes like that if the industry is booming, GDP is growing at 9, 10, 11%, obviously everybody will benefit. So that is the path. It's not that they also claim to care for the whole of the country, but they say this is the right way. Whereas these guys have their doubts, So the bridge between the two viewpoints is difficult to fill, the gulf. Each side doesn't trust the other. You follow? Really, it doesn't trust. So now in this round, the government, Nirmala Sitharaman is only the representative. There must be so many people telling her what to do. Okay?
Very true, sir.
Not an independent agent, There are so many lobbies and politicians and, ministers and prime minister, everybody has an input. So in this particular way, they have gone in for the infrastructure and so on. The approach which is more aligned with quote unquote the capitalists,
Very true.
So the other group is somewhat dissatisfied. I think, does that answer your question?
It
but
does.
Theoretically, if they have calculated right, it's a big if. It's not a simple answer. So if they have calculated right for all of India, then everybody, Kisan, Majdoor, everybody should see the benefits 2-3 years down the line. Okay. So they have not, so to speak, done much to cater or say address the immediate expectations of that group. Nothing much. But presumably what they have done will lead to benefits down the line. Okay.
True, sir. So, sir, one trailing question I had regarding to what you just said, that if the government is releasing a 5-year budget, so what is the minimum term in which we can see results? Like if the budget was declared in 2022, so by what year can we see this, bringing results to the economy?
See, that is the whole problem, no? Infrastructure will bring results slowly. Okay? Whereas somebody can lose job and the results are immediate. Suppose you decide to invest 5 lakh crores rupees something in infrastructure. That's a slow process by definition. But if 5 lakh people lose jobs, next day they will have problem at home. So this is ultimately economics and politics. I'm glad you said that. Economics and politics are inseparable. But please remember, obviously, I mean, no one can doubt this. This is all about human beings. So to argue that I must make 5 lakh people unhappy today, so they will be happy 3 years from now, nobody will accept that argument. You try making it to anybody. To your brother, to your dearest brother, you say, I'll make you unhappy for 3 months, but promise that later on you'll be very happy. He will have a, skepticism. Does this guy know what he's talking about? Okay? It's like between human beings. Whereas in your ideal world of economists, human beings are not human beings. They are just numbers.
True, sir. It seems like a number.
Every human being is a human being.
Yeah. That even happened with the COVID scenario. Like people were just discussing numbers.
It's sad. I'm telling you, all these academicians, economists, and all that, they forget that we are all human beings. So don't try to cheat anybody.
True.
Okay. So suppose people are losing jobs like those who had to walk back. You know what happened in Bangalore? Because the migrant workers decided to leave. So some senior guy in the government protested, hey, wait a minute, we can't afford that they should leave. What will happen to our construction and all that? So, you see, they were leaving not for joy, they were leaving because they were in difficult situation. So if you want them to work happily for you later on, take care of them during the hard time. I mean, it's ABC. Okay?
Very true, sir.
You can't say that I don't look at you for 6 months, but stick around because later on I need you. You may go in this. So it's all between
that would be very selfish.
human beings. So neither the capitalist nor the socialist nor the finance minister, I hope they forget that this is all about human beings.
True, sir.
You can't mislead them. They are not that. You can fool some of the people some of the time, but you cannot fool all of the people all of the time.
That's an amazing quote, sir. That is a very noteworthy quote. Thanks a lot.
It's true. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Next.
Okay, sir. I just want to ask that, with people claiming that the budget holds nothing for the middle class. So how was the reception amongst the masses been?
See, even in the middle class, I think there are two groups. One group, what you can call upper middle class, is probably investing in the stock market and all that. So they might be even, comfortable with all this, because huge investments are to be made in infrastructure and all that. But those who are, not having savings, but rather having the issue of, balancing their income and expenditure and having a tough time. So they have not been given any ostensible relief, except that, all these policies will bring vigor to the economy. But there is no relief as such which starts effective first day of the financial year. So that is the feeling, I think, in people, not only middle class, but even, Kisan and all that. You're right. Yeah.
Yes.
A very good evening, sir. Now that you have mentioned the stock market, I would like to ask you that on the day of the budget, the stock market had seen a tremendous hike. The Sensex rose by 800 points, which is quite a lot. So can you please explain that, and how does it contradict with the general public's perception?
See, majority of public doesn't invest in the stock market. Okay. So that contradiction is at two different groups. Okay. Now you talk about the stock market. Now, in the stock market, I think it would be incorrect to think believe that all the movements are just secular movements, thousands of people making decisions, something. Some people are ahead of the curve and some people are behind. So in the stock market, those who are ahead of the curve make money from those who are behind. Okay. So to some extent, it's a rational process of allocating capital and etc. etc. But to some extent, it's also, who thinks fast and who thinks more accurately. It's like that's why some people call it like a, Satta Bajar. In the old days, this was called Satta Bajar.
Satta Bazaar, yes.
And that Satta Bajar is also called because people are playing with borrowed money. You have 1,000 rupees of your own, but using that as your down payment, you borrow much more money and you risk 10,000 rupees. Now, if 10,000 becomes 20,000, then you pay back the 10,000 and on 1,000 you have made 10,000. So your returns become huge if the bet works. But if the bet goes, you are wiped out. So you are not only playing with your money, you are playing with borrowed money. So it is a game that I don't play. Okay, if I ever had to do business, I would do it with my own money. Let it grow slowly, let it lose some money, let it win some money. But I don't want other people poking their nose into my business. Okay, buying my shares and selling my shares and all that. I want to be free from that bullshit. Actually, it is bullshit. Okay, I think. So in America, about the stock market, I heard one quote, which is quite popular, incidentally. You might have heard also. Okay. And it's worth remembering. Fear and greed drive the market. Fear and greed drive the market, or greed and fear. When you are in a greed phase, you have a boom. And when you are in a fear phase, you have a bust. But greed and fear are for average people like you and me. The sharp operators are ahead of the curve. So they are playing on our greed and fear. They always make money, unless sometimes things go wrong, like Lehman Brothers and all that. But most of the time, they know more than we do. Okay. So I don't want to be in a game where supposedly my fear and my greed make me victim of that game. And I personally, even if I was a very sharp operator, etc., etc., I don't want to play on other people's greed and fear. Doesn't seem like a good way of making money. I would much rather teach, You follow?
Yes, sir.
Make money on your fear and greed. I mean, it's like exploiting you. Suppose you are a naive person driven by fear and greed, and I'm watching you and making money out of you. I mean, okay, I don't want to do it. Okay, but all this happens in the stock market routinely. Okay.
So, sir, does that imply that stock markets aren't a mirror of what's happening in the economy? Like, you cannot judge an economy.
In America, it is almost become commonplace because of so much money printing by the Federal Reserve that the Wall Street and the Main Street is like representing the real market. You have your Main Street in any town. The shops are along the Main Street. So Main Street represents the real market, where people go and buy and make and sell. And Wall Street is the financial games.
Stop.
So the Wall Street and Main Street have become worlds apart because of all this money printing. Okay, so you should hope that that doesn't happen in India.
So it's not a true reflection of the economy, in a sense.
No, it is financialized and it is held up by the money printing. It's no longer a true reflection of what the average man is doing. That is what in India we don't say mainstream, but you can use the word MSME, micro, small and medium enterprises, which are so many in number, millions. The public limited companies are not so much, but these are smaller but huge in number. They generate huge amount of employment and all that. So, and even your vegetable market, fruit market, all that is our business. So Dalal Street, I hope, will never become that divorced from the real state of the economy. I hope so. Yeah.
We all hope for the best.
We all hope so.
Hello, sir. My question is, many people seems confused between the terms legalization and legal tender. So, can you explain the difference?
No, this is a very simple question. Very simple. I tell you why. You are missing the significance of the word tender and the significance of the word legal. Something may be legal or illegal, regardless of whether it's a tender. Like in Gujarat, buying alcohol is illegal. But even where it's legal, alcohol is not tender in the sense that I cannot take, suppose alcohol is legal in Maharashtra. So I go to a vegetable vendor and give a bottle of alcohol and say that give me vegetables. He or she can deny because it's not a medium of exchange. I cannot force her to take one bottle of alcohol and give me, so much vegetables because it is worth so much. She will only accept rupees because medium of exchange is printed rupee notes, what you have seen. Okay, what you have in your pocket. So now they have legalized trading in Bitcoin and all that, which was not so far legalized. But the legal tender in India is only those rupees printed by the mint, But they are going to come out with a digital currency, which will be legal tender.
True.
If you have a way of paying that vegetable lady, if she has a smartphone, she can accept that digital rupee. Then she cannot deny, provided she has the means to accept. So you press a few buttons on your phone and that digital money is transferred to her account and you take your vegetables. So that will be a tender. But Bitcoin is still not tender, but you are free to deal in it if you want. If the buyer and the seller agree, you can deal in anything. You can buy and sell a car or a computer or anything. So legalization is one thing. Tender means medium of exchange which cannot be denied. No one can refuse to accept my 100 rupee note, okay, if they are in business.
Sir, because this question popped up because many news channels or many influencers for their motive were trying to scare people by focusing on, cryptocurrency will never be a legal tender. The government has told that it will never be a legal tender.
I think as far as I know, it is still not legal tender.
It will never be because
it is not illegal now to deal in cryptocurrency. They will tax you 30% or something, but it's not an illegal activity. Okay.
So people were being misled by some other people with their motives.
Just do simple thing. Go into the meaning of the words. Many often these journalists and so on, because they have to meet their deadlines. Just think. Go look up the meaning of the word and think about it. The answer will come. I don't do anything more. Whenever I have a doubt, I go into the true meaning of the word and then look around for examples. Hey, that's not a journalist's business nowadays, So
very true.
Yeah. Okay.
Sir, the PM Gati Shakti scheme, right, which is mainly aimed at integrating and infrastructure connectivity projects, has been allocated a lot of funds, right, which is about rupees 20,000 crores, right, especially with special mentions of the Northeast. So, any comments about that?
See, generally this government is friendly towards digital technology and all that, like you said earlier, and infrastructure. So if you get more value for money out of your infrastructure projects by getting the synergy out of that, your transport and this, that. So smooth interoperability, something like that. So why not? And Northeast is, in some sense, it is cut off, it's so far and so
remote, yes.
They will benefit more. I hope they benefit. So no, it's one country, right? So no part should be neglected. So those which are cut off, okay, if you have to invest some more, then do it. everybody, they are all citizens of India. So maybe they'll benefit more from Gati Shakti than some villages close to Delhi are already well connected. Villages close to Bombay already they're well connected. Same goes for Ahmedabad and all that. So those which are not well connected, good. It's a nice thing. It's infrastructure and ICT. Incidentally, this is all ICT. Gati Shakti will be applying ICT to infrastructure and transport projects.
Yes,
okay?
True. Very true.
Okay.
This time, as we see, sports budget has been given a lot of fund because of upcoming Commonwealth Games and India's performance in the Olympics. So will this have really implications on grassroots level infrastructure and to encourage Indian youth to sports?
See, last time our hockey team did well because, Naveen Patnaik in Odisha gave them very special facilities and budget and all that. He virtually adopted that team. You know the story. So probably the government has learned from that. I think it's a good thing. I hope it does go to the grassroots level, doesn't remain just in government files. The results have to be seen. But ultimately, the youth has to get fired up also. This kind of achievement, what you're talking, Commonwealth and Olympics and all that, until the person is really, really, really fired up, you have to give up something to get something. Okay. So suppose you want to excel in whatever you are good at, like some of our runners were there, women runners who won medals. They had to give up other things to become excellent at running, right? So that requires commitment and hard work and all that. So youth has to also, unless that put it in, just money doesn't do it. Money is just giving you an infrastructure and all that. But ultimately somebody has to say, yes, I will do it, So I hope the youth will do it. It will happen only when they say, yes, I will do it. Say no to other nonsense and just go after this. Okay? Right?
Very true, sir.
Okay.
So
I hope
it has
that
to,
happens.
yeah, even we hope, because the scene in our Indian society is sports has not been given importance at the grassroots levels. Like in schools, we'd have our maths teacher take up our sports lecture and to essentially finish up the syllabus.
That is true. That is true because our society has so many issues, even with literacy and all that. So there are too many things to be done. But I hope 1 out of 100 or 1 out of 1,000 or some youngster does get fired up. Even if 1 out of 1,000 gets fired up, we'll have a very good contingent, because we have Yuva Shakti is quite huge. So even 1 out of 1,000 will be a very good number, but it has to be fired up.
And our society
It's
doesn't
like that.
actually.
In Hindi, it is said like this. I don't know, you guys are younger, so you may not have heard this before. In Hindi, it is said like this: "Karenge ya marenge." I don't know. Ever heard that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Do or die.
Do or die.
Karenge ya marenge. This means there is no alternate. Then you get somewhere. Actually, kuch ka ho jayega. But that spirit is very rare.
And in a society, it is not seen as a viable career option. Sports is just for recreation.
If you pay attention to what others are saying, you will not do it. You have to say hell with them. I know what I want. If you let uncle and auntie and neighbor and this and that and friends tell you what to do, then this sports university is not for you anyway. It has to be, means somewhere you have to drop this, and decide what you want to do. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So, sir, can we say that this increased allocation to sports is mainly for changing the Indian mindset? There is also saying that
no, Indian mindset will not change by this small thing. Much more is required.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess that was it from our side. Anything else that you found worth discussing, if we're not already discussed? So
See, one point which you guys may not be knowing about the budget is that many of the huge expenses are already pre-committed. You have to pay interest on the borrowings. You have to pay salaries and pensions and all that. There has to be defense outlay. Okay. So a huge portion of the budget, maybe, I'm not sure I've read these figures, but maybe close to 2/3, something like that. 2/3.
Yes, sir, around 70%. Around 70%.
This is pre-committed. The freedom of action is only in the remaining. Okay. So nowadays defense budget has to be also up to date because of various issues. So that point also you please keep in mind. So what people talk about all the time are within this, where there was a discretion, this much for roads and this much for sports. There the discretion was there. So you can see that what the government is trying to achieve. But 70%, there was no discretion. It had to be done anyway. Whatever, suppose now the deficit, some against 135 or so, something units, 100 is coming from taxes, that 35 is borrowings, something like that. Some percentage of the budget will be filled by borrowings. So today's borrowings will add to the interest payment tomorrow, next year. So every time the government borrows to do something, interest due will rise next year. So that interest payment is pre-committed. Same goes for salaries and all that, defense budget, pensions. So please keep that in mind.
So, sir, will this create a vicious cycle? Like, our demands will never decrease. We'll always need at least what we needed the previous year. So we have to continuously borrow, and then pay interest. So
in theory, and this has happened in the past once or twice. If the economy is growing in a healthy way, nicely, as anticipated, then the tax revenues are buoyant, as they say, they go up. So you can reduce the borrowings. So if you are spending wisely, see, the basic rule of economics is what? One is, I tell you, ABC. This is ABC. You don't need a textbook to get this. Whatever you are earning, one part has to go for your upkeep day to day. Roti, kapda, makan. That is okay. You can't dispute that. Some part you are investing. The investment should bring in decent return on investment. So that happens at country level also. Whatever we are investing, if it brings good return on investment, then you don't need to borrow. You pay back the old debts. Okay. But as you know, every system has interest lobbies and all that. So there must be any number of people in India, maybe banks, maybe other types of agents and all that, foreign banks, which make their money out of giving us loans.
Very true.
Okay. Their earning comes from money borrowed by us. So there must be all kinds of pulls and pushes, Okay.
Sir, another
every time somebody, like one bank is constantly sending me reminders about a free credit card. Why? Because if I get tempted and spend a lot of money, they'll make some out of that.
True.
So lending money can be good business. So, but I hope our government remains prudent, and I hope that our investments will give such good growth in the coming years that our borrowings will decline. That is not happening in America. There is something called debt to GDP ratio. So in many countries, it's much worse than ours, including Japan.
Yes. Okay. So, sir, when you said that, in a buoyant economy, like in a flourishing economy, the taxes would cover up for the borrowings that we are making. As an individual, in a community, would people want less taxes? If I'm doing a good business, if the government increases taxes to decrease the borrowings, the public, what would the public perception be?
No. I didn't mean to say increase. What I meant was primarily that even with the present tax rates, that your business is doing much more revenue.
Right. I get it. Yeah. On the same slabs, but because my business is flourishing, it will be paying more back to the government. Right. I got that.
GST and all those things, Income tax, GST, all those things.
So, sir,
the GST revenues were quite buoyant recently.
Very true, sir. They were quite high for the financial year.
So, let us hope that without having very heavy tax rates also, see, a healthy economy should make people happy, including the businessman who's doing very good business and paying taxes, and his workers, his or her workers. Means, I still, maybe I'm an idealist in that sense, not a realist. That maybe there is a way that, everybody gets a share of the pleasure that comes out of a healthy economy. It's not one against the other. It's not socialist against the capitalist or vice versa. Let us all benefit from a healthy economy. The worker doesn't need as many million rupees as the capitalist, but he also deserves happiness. Like that.
That was very insightful, sir. So we'll be moving towards the Q&A session where we'll be requesting our audience to post their question in the chat, and we'll try and answer as many as possible. Probably all, but yeah, keep your questions in the chat. And I guess Shashank, you can carry forward with the questions in the chat.
Yeah. Hello, sir, and good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, so there was a question. It was stating that seeing the current budget, does it attract the foreign institutional investors?
See, once again, my point of view is different from what you may hear or read anywhere else. I hope we become an economy where we have to be careful about taking money from foreign institutional investors. They would, if they come here, why do you think they come? Because they are making a good return. So if they are making a good return by investing here, why don't we invest our own money and make that? Keep that fellow last in the list. हम खुद नहीं क्यों इसका फायदा लें?
Yes, sir.
Are we stupid or what? No, the answer is we don't have enough capital. But actually, that's not even true. There is lots of capital in India, in our country, I mean. But government and people and capitalists and socialists and workers, they have lost faith in each other. So we are looking to the foreigner. I personally don't like to look to the foreigner to bring me happiness, because that's not his goal in life.
Yes, sir. He's making money for himself. His very true agenda is making profit.
Right. So I am quite happy just relying on myself. Rather, when I teach students, I don't rely on any foreigner. So in that sense, I am free.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, I make less money than the people on Dalal Street, but at least I don't have to rely on the foreigner to make me happy.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask a follow-up question. Sir, we discussed how we are not investing in ourselves. Like there are foreign investors coming into India right now. So where is India investing? Like in general, where do Indians invest? Are there any figures for that? In general,
I understand the traditional Indian will buy gold or property, land, or things like that. Maybe start a business. So most of you guys, if I'm not mistaken, within your extended family, you will know people who are not exactly, brainwashed by Harvard and Yale and all that. They do things only the Indian way. Maybe they have even a suitcase full of cash also. I don't care. But because they don't trust, they use their own brain. कि हमें क्या करना है. Okay, so, and I don't, there are many like that. They are running businesses when you go to small towns and all that, So talk to them. You will find out what is the traditional wisdom. There is something called traditional wisdom, and it's not bad, I tell you. But what has happened nowadays, we think that all wisdom only comes from Harvard and Stanford and blah, 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 which is not true because America is not doing that well nowadays. The divisions are very sharp. Okay. They are printing money. So, okay, there are lots of dollars to go around. Okay. So, I would say take a look at quote unquote traditional wisdom of a society like ours, which has done business for thousands of years. Okay. Even in the time of Gautam Buddha, they were businessmen. Okay. Right?
Correct.
When these people were savages. Okay. So just think about that. Okay.
So we have some more questions in the chat. I'd like Shashank, Aditya, and Krishna to be active.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Good evening, sir.
Yes.
There's a question from Tirth that if the government takes a loan of a very big amount, like some 15 lakh crore or something, so how would it impact the stock market?
See, when they take loans, the interest rates will go up. Generally, deficit financing generally is assumed that eventually it will increase the inflation. Okay. So within the stock market, of course, there are so many factors. This is not the only one. So the main factor stock market is that people are playing games. That is also true. But maybe some financial sector companies will benefit from that, and maybe some manufacturing and such things. Manufacturing also, there are so many sectors. But as I told you, stock market, they claim to be always making rational decisions, but I cannot get rid of that sentence which I read long time ago, that fear and greed rule the market. Okay. So I don't know how they analyze this deficit financing and then borrowing and then effect on inflation and interest rates. Maybe some sectors will benefit from that and some sectors will be adversely impacted. Maybe that works into the calculations of the stock market, but more likely it is just fear and greed. Okay. For example, the sharp operators, when the budget comes out, they create a hype. It's very good, very good, very good. So people rush in, and then 2 or 3 days later, they sell out. Okay, because they were there before the others. So they sell before the price comes down. So people who operate like this probably do not do much in-depth analysis. As long as there is money to be made by luring others, you make the money. Hell with the analytics. You follow?
If yes, sir. That has actually been the case in this year's budget.
Look. If suppose I have a stock share, some company, I bought, let us say, at 1,000 rupees. If I can lure 1,000 other people by somehow, no, it's going up, so they will rush in, and the price will go to 2,000. Somehow I help generate that hype. Now at 2,000, when these guys are happy that got into some growth stock, I quietly sell out. So my 1,000 becomes 2,000. Okay, just by creating that movement. So I'm not sure how much the stock market is ruled by simple, plain, cool calculations, and how much it is ruled by this game playing. Okay,
but it is all behind the motives.
So that's why I'm not going into it. Because
that has been the case this year as well, sir. On the budget day, there was a boom, like the stock market shot up, but on the consequent days following, it has been dripping down like anything. Every day it's falling down by 1%. So it has been the same case.
There are people who can make movements happen. These are people with lots of money, plus lots of ability to borrow and play. That Harshad Mehta was like that. That scandals, scandals. Yeah.
There is also a question in the chat. What exactly is a pre-market economy? Could you explain?
Sorry, what exactly
is a pre-market economy?
Free market.
Pre-market, PRE, pre-market economy.
Pre-market economy, I don't know. I have not heard that phrase before. I know what's a market. I know what is economy. But when you put that pre in front, I really don't know what it means.
There must have been some confusion at the other end.
See, there was a barter economy thousands of years ago, before there was currency. People only exchanged goods. There was still a market. See, you had too much wheat and somebody else had extra buffaloes or something. So you exchange wheat for buffaloes and you both go back happy. Each one gets something that he or she did not have. So that is barter. That time there was no money. So there was an economy, but it was called barter economy. But you cannot say it's pre-market. It's pre-money. Because barter is also a market. There is a mandi. You exchange goods. So it is a market. Right?
Yes, sir. That was. So we'd like the audience to, finally posting their questions if they have any, because we've had a great session with Professor Naresh Jotwani, and
go into the basics. Go into the basics. The same basics of economics applies to your home and to any other entity, small business. Basics are all the same.
True, sir.
But details are more complicated. That's all. Basic principles are same.
As you said, sir, it's all in the ABCs.
ABC, go down to the basics. Your instinct will tell you, your common sense will tell you kya ho raha hai. So don't let the textbooks and the quote-unquote experts, beware the experts, because they will make you forget your common sense, your instinct. Okay? They are working on behalf of somebody. Most experts are, working for corporates or lobbies or something. Okay? Trust your own judgment. Yeah.
That is a very true. That's actually a rule to stick by, because if nothing else works, this is your instincts would definitely help you if you go to the basics.
And even if you make a mistake, you will learn.
True, sir.
If the economist makes a mistake and you lose money, what do you learn? Make your own mistakes.
If the economist makes a mistake, the country learns.
Yeah. The only way to learn is by this way, not by listening to so-called experts. All of them moved in America because everything is so open and transparent. And what they did in Russia when Soviet Union broke up, they were all supposed to be experts. But the economy went on the brink of disaster, absolutely. All those experts went from America.
Very true, sir.
Many of them were professors.
So I have a question. Will the union budget will provide immunity against the current inflation rate?
No, inflation will go down only if the economy picks up very good, healthy growth. Otherwise, this borrowings and all that, borrowings, if they have say, when you borrow money, there is more demand for money. So the price of money goes up. That is interest rate. So
yes,
if
sir.
interest rates go up, I don't think that you could say that only if the healthy growth comes, we may see much lower inflation.
So will this union budget will affect will there be liquidity in the market basically it states that if the middle class is having more money, then it will spend more.
No, that is a basic rule. If the people have money to spend, they spend it in the economy, so the businesses also get churning. That is true. That is absolutely true. But if let us say the people earning other than people earning the top 20%, those not in the top 20% of earnings, if they do not have surplus money, then that effect will not be seen. Okay, that will impact the MSME, the small businesses and all that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And MSME generates a lot of employment. Okay.
Thanks, sir. So there's one more question.
There's a very specific question in the chat.
Yeah, so the question states that current crude oil prices are $92 per barrel to rise inflation in upcoming couple of months.
No, the long-term trend in crude oil prices will be upward. That is for sure. So, means what happens when there is a trend? It doesn't mean that there will not be fluctuations. But if you draw a trend line through the fluctuations, it will be rising.
It will be rising upwards only.
Yeah. So what I feel is all this movement towards the green energy and all that, which is supposed to take 20, 30 years, throughout that there will be, in the fossil fuel market, there will be ups and downs. But this is all very long term, it may or may not happen, but if it happens eventually, if the demand for fossil fuels falls substantially, which will take a long time, then only the prices will come down. But that is far away. So in the meantime, we will see a trend of increasing fossil fuel prices with some fluctuations.
Okay, sir.
That is true. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, sir. That has been it from Radio DAI series.
Nice talking to you. Okay, all the best.
We thoroughly enjoyed it, and we hope to see you soon in college. We would love to attend an in-person lecture.
No, when the campus opens up, I'll be happy. I enjoy talking to you guys because I think the experts and the professors and all that, they are misleading people. So I don't say that I'm telling you 100%, but at least think about it. Don't apply your own mind, what makes sense. Ultimately, you have to judge. Okay. But I'll tell you what I have learned. Okay.
True, sir. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much for your time and answering all our queries.
No
so
problem.
That's it from our side, and may you all have a great day.
Okay, thank you. All the best. All the best. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.